Welcome to the Milk Bottle e-commerce show, brought to you by Milk Bottle Labs, one of the world's top-rated accredited Shopify e-commerce experts. Founder Keith Matthews interviews e-commerce professionals, app developers and entrepreneurs to share as much digital knowledge and e-commerce tips and tricks as possible. This podcast is kindly supported by our go-to e-commerce tools. Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify, BigCommerce, Trello and more. Let's just say it's the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever get for your Shopify store and all your valuable data. Simply go to rewind.io/milk bottle to get your first month for free. We just love Klaviyo, our preferred automated email solution we use in every store build. No wonder it's trusted by over 65,000 ambitious growing brands worldwide. Find out more on klaviyo.com/milk bottle. Looking for easy accounting for e-commerce? Cinder can relieve you from manual data entry and automatically generate an accurate P&L report, balance sheet and inventory management for your business needs. A few clicks and you'll get access to the key metrics to find the hidden streams of income for your business. Use a coupon code EASYBOOKS for up to 40% off. Check out the show notes for further details.
Hey folks, Lisa Popovici is my guest today. Lisa is the founder of Cartloop, a collaborative SMS marketing platform for Shopify brands. She's a med school graduate, turned to tech, and an entrepreneur with over 7 years of e-commerce experience, and is now bringing the human element back to tech. While SMS is a legacy technology in Europe, it has exploded worldwide. And we recently had another SMS provider on the show, but I'm actually quite interested to understand what Lisa has to say because the market is changing very, very quickly. Lisa, welcome. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
Great. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. There's something that stands out in your profile, and that's the bit about med school. Okay. I'm very, very interested to understand how you ended up in tech. But before we go there, just before we pressed record, we were talking about Barcelona. And then you also mentioned that you recently moved there. So how did you end up in Barcelona?
Yeah, I'm originally from Romania. And I've been wanting to move in either one city from Europe or the US because I've been spending some time there as well for a long time. But then, due to the pandemic, I stayed in Romania and I recently moved to Barcelona 7 months ago. I love it. I chose this place because I feel like the tech space is evolving so much, has grown a lot. There are amazing people, amazing talent. The food is incredible. I love food. So that's important. And I feel like it's the California of Europe, just because you have everything you need. You have the beach, you have the mountains, you have incredible weather. So I feel like that's a great combination for a lifestyle.
Yeah, you've described it very well. I've been there a few times and anybody that visits says the very, very same thing. Is it suffering from the rise in the cost of living? Spain always struck me as a country that I wouldn't say was relatively cheap, but certainly it never struck me as expensive. So is it expensive?
Honestly, it's not. So when you compare it with, let's say, London or Paris, it's much cheaper. And even the cost of like the rentals or, the houses or the food, like it's very reasonable. I can even compare it to Romania, it was supposed to be a cheaper country to live in, but now like the prices have increased. And honestly, Spain feels like a very decent place to live in, like average prices.
Yeah, a lot of people have caught on to that over the years, and there's a massive expat population. A lot of UK residents are living over there for many years, and for that reason, it's relatively economic to live, and also, of course, the weather. I mean, it's just, for many people, it's a holiday. In terms of you running a business and getting tech talent, is there any advantage to you basing yourself in Barcelona other than time zones and lifestyle and cost of living? Is there a pool of talent there that you can tap into, or is that even relative? Are all your team virtual?
Yeah, so the team at Cartloop is fully remote. We are spread around 10 countries at this point. But yeah, we do look for people all around the world, including Spain and Barcelona. And there's incredible talent here. We don't have a member yet from Barcelona, but I'd be super excited if we have one in the near future. But yeah, absolutely. Great companies, like Glovo, Typeform, Hopin are from here. So yeah, there's incredible talent.
Typeform is a great product. I have to say, wonderful product. I remember it in the early years, and it's getting better and better. So they're very proudly Spanish as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to understand how you got the idea for Cartloop. But before we go there, can you explain to the listeners exactly what Cartloop does?
So Cartloop is a collaborative SMS marketing platforms that helps e-commerce brands drive growth and build personal relationships by texting with customers in real time. So we use a unique combination of automation and real-time human agents so brands can develop that one-to-one relationships with their customers through a unified experience. So everything happens inside of Cartloop. And I can elaborate on this particular concept a little bit later as it's related to one of our recent launches. And how Cartloop came to life. So there are a couple of reasons. And one is related to our previous experience as Shopify merchants. I'm talking about my co-founder and myself. So we were Shopify merchants before we started Cartloop. So we dealt with, all the frustrations and problems that merchants usually have. And one of those was the huge amount of abandoned carts that we didn't really understand the reason behind. So we decided one day, and this was I think 5 years ago when SMS was not popular and there were few solutions. So what we did is we texted manually our abandoned shoppers through WhatsApp, and we tried to open a conversation with them, being very friendly and helpful. And we actually saw a great response. They were appreciative of us reaching out in a very personal way. And we actually managed to recover a bunch of cards and also build that connection with our customers. So that was one moment that was okay, this is interesting. Maybe we should dive deeper into this and see how we can scale it. The second reason is once we decided to build software and solve bigger problems, we saw this gap in the SMS space in 2020. So we saw this gap because most players were fully focused on automation. So we saw that the human element is missing. And if you think about e-commerce in its roots is a personal relationship, is a transaction between people. And it's all about, humans. So we said, let's bring that human element into SMS. And we started very niched by just, solving the cart abandonment problem. So that's how Cartloop was born, basically seeing this trend, but adding the missing piece and then taking our experience from being a Shopify merchant.
So Lisa, in classic founder style, you had a problem and you created a solution. And then you realized when you created it that in actual fact, there could be another business in this. So well done. That's fantastic. Not many people would go and develop the software. Many people would just continue to use WhatsApp. I noticed on your integration area, you're integrated to Gorgeous and to Klaviyo, which are two wonderful layers that sit on inside many Shopify stores. So a lot of users would just use possibly Gorgeous just to continue to communicate that with the client or connect it, via automated email, which of course is obviously complementary to SMS. So well done. The bit that you left out was the med school piece. Just give us the history on that. You started med school and then after a year or two, you realized that your passion was for e-commerce. Explain that story.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, an interesting pivot in my career. One of the best decisions I've ever made. So when I was 18 years old, I had to make the decision of where I want to go to college, right? So I was always a very good student in high school. My grades were very, very good. But I was super confused. I didn't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I think it's normal for an 18-year-old to not really know what I choose now, a thing that I will do for the rest of my life. It's not the way to think about life. So I was pretty much influenced by some of my best friends whose, parents were doctors and they were going to med school. And I always knew that I wanted to help people. So, med school sounded like a good idea. And also in Romania, the online space, the tech space was not that evolved. It really depends on the network and your entourage. So, okay, I said, let's just go to med school. I always liked biology and anatomy and stuff like that. But it wasn't I knew from the very 3 years old that I wanted to become a doctor. So it was good. Throughout med school, I had, again, very good grades. I really enjoyed it. However, during med school, I started building my Shopify brands because I wanted to have like a side gig and earn money. Because, during med school, 6 years is a lot. You don't earn anything. I didn't want to rely on my parents. So I started working actually with my current co-founder, Andre. So that we met like 7 years ago and we started working on Shopify. So first I helped him with his brands and then I created my own. So this is how I got into the space and I developed this passion and I found a lot of skills that I didn't know I had. I was always attracted to, software, computers, online, because I actually have computer science background because I studied it in high school.
So Lisa, just on that was my next question. Did you feel that you equally had an interest in tech and you also had an interest in biology and med? Like at any point when you were making that decision in terms of your career, where you were going to go to university, did you consider a technical direction?
No, I didn't. It was just because coding was not really my thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how many opportunities and, there are actually, not just, becoming a developer.
Exactly. So you're probably like me and a lot of other people. You probably sit in the middle as maybe a little bit of a generalist. And there's in a lot of ways, there's no courses for generalists. You have to study something and focus on a topic before you realize that maybe it doesn't suit or it's too narrow or too broad. So that's great. Before we go off that topic, do you miss that? Obviously, you enjoy what you do, but when medical news comes on the television, do your ears open or is it gone and is it past?
It's a funny question. I do not miss it at all. However, I am a very health conscious person. I love health. I love nutrition. I love fitness. So I'm always documenting myself and educating myself on how to optimize my life, also for the professional aspect, but also for personal and longevity. So I'm very still interested in those topics. However, I do not miss the actual, being in the hospital, the practice and all the theoretical stuff.
We'll just pause for 1 second while we listen to our sponsors, Lisa. Rewind.io is the leading backup solution for your Shopify store. Did you know that there's no way of recovering lost data? If your store is gaining traction, app developers or multiple staff may enter your store, and there's absolutely no way of fixing human error. Rewind.io allows you to rewind your store back to its original state, so you can reduce your business risk immediately with the Rewind app. It's so easy and is the cheapest and best insurance policy you'll ever need for your Shopify store. Get your first month for free by simply replying to your first email from Rewind and mention this podcast. Now, regular listeners will know I love Klaviyo. It's the single biggest revenue generator I've ever seen across hundreds and hundreds of Shopify stores I've been in. Klaviyo's data-driven marketing automation platform is sophisticated enough to power those legendary campaigns from the big brands you admire, but they make it simple, they make it easy, and they make it fast. To get started with a free trial of Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/milkbottle. That's klaviyo.com/milkbottle. So Lisa, SMS is a completely different beast to automated email. And in Europe, in the UK and in Ireland, many years ago, there was a number of controversies over SMS providers that were sending SMS messages to thousands and thousands of people, and the message was billed on the receipt of the message on the phone. So there was quite a large scandal around that many years ago. So in Ireland, for example, the SMS market is limited because the market was kind of, I wouldn't say destroyed by those service providers, but certainly people kind of had a distaste in their mouth. So now when we talk to e-commerce store owners, busy store owners, SMS is always in the conversation, but it's never prioritized for that reason. Okay. Now, of course, SMS is exploding all over the world. So if you weren't using SMS, what would be the top 3 strategies that you'd advise a new customer to Cartloop on how to board and include SMS in the customer experience and how to grow and build on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would start with prioritizing customer support because that's one of the best places for you to get in touch and connect with customers and shoppers. So I would advise engaging more in proactive support and automating the reactive support. For example, the frequently asked questions. Those can be automated but still personalized. I would say acknowledge concerns, listen to customers' needs very carefully, address them wisely, I would say the time to response is also very important, whether it's SMS, live chat, even email, if you provide that two-way communication through email. So try to reply under 5 minutes. And I think one of the other strategies, if we don't think about SMS, but we look at the entire holistic marketing strategy, I think it's important to meet your customers where they spend most of their time. So if your audience spends more time on their phone, text them, of course, with their consent. If you text them as you text your friends, 99% sure they will love it. They will not treat it as intrusive. If they spend time on social media, double down your efforts, open your DMs, right? Like allocate a person for being there. I just be present, offer options. And there are a bunch of conversational ways that brands can leverage these days, such as, SMS, live shopping, live chat, social media, and all these expound the possibilities that customers have to interact with brands. And if we just take SMS marketing, over 74% of respondents that are aged between 18 and 44 aren't just communicating via text, they're actually also purchasing. So it's very convenient. That's why SMS has grown very fast. That's one of my assumptions, is that it's the most convenient channel out there. Like, it's super easy to do anything. You always have your phone, right? So you always will read the messages. They will not be, forgotten or buried under like thousands of other emails. Also, comparing to live chat, you are not bounded to a desktop session or to a live session. When you close the tab, you lose the conversation. So you always have it there. It's very convenient. So there's a lot of untapped potential within just one channel.
Lisa, when you're boarding new customers, do you find that you have to place more effort in order to educate the customer? Is it safe to assume that all customers are fairly savvy and that they understand the power of SMS, but also the potential pitfalls? So do you spend more time boarding customers as a result?
No, it really depends on the location, as you mentioned. So most of our customers right now are US, Canada, UK, and Australia. So brands are already familiar with SMS and the power that this channel has. And it's all about educating them how to use SMS the right way. Not treating it as email, basically putting more effort into building those relationships that will have a big impact on the long term.
Yeah, so the countries you just listed are modern, highly developed countries and first world countries. So it's probably safe to assume that countries with high adoption of SMS are probably a reflection on the overall population in terms of their adoption of technology.
Yeah, and I think it's also about how evolved the e-commerce and tech ecosystem is within that country. Because even in Spain, we are constantly adding new countries to our list. One of our plans is to go global and to have that global availability. But even Spain, I've received text messages from here, from other brands, but the automated ones. So people are used to it. Even here, there's the e-commerce space is huge.
Yeah. It amazes me sometimes, Lisa, with SMS, that it's a legacy technology. It's been around since the early 90s. And even with Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp and email, all of the other forms of communication, it still remains it's got a resurgence in popularity now as a result of the fact that it's been used now by most companies for two-factor authentication. I think many people may have predicted the decline in SMS, but in actual fact, it hasn't happened, and it looks like it'll never happen. And as you say, the phone is in consumers' hands, and that's part of the reason that's the case. Lisa, in terms of the psychology of SMS, how does using SMS for a busy merchant differ between direct mail, paid social, and email? Do busy merchants need a different strategy for each of them?
Yeah, the answer is yes. I mean, the strategy really needs to communicate. The channels need to communicate with one another. That's one rule of thumb. You have to create a holistic marketing strategy so you don't overlap channels. And SMS by nature is a two-way communication channel. And brands should get used to the idea of treating it like a personal channel between them and their shoppers. Another rule of thumb is text your customers like you text your friends. And also, I think brands need to shift their mindsets and be more sensitive in how they come across in their messages, in their SMS text. because most of them right now are still, sending, let's say, 5 or 6 campaigns per week. Just imagine receiving 5 or 6 texts which are automated just with, discounts from just one single brand. That's insane. That's not how you should go about SMS. So it's really important these days when everyone is shopping online to keep the conversational human aspect of the in-store experience. So SMS, specifically conversational texting, can bring that human element back. And it's about elevating the customer experience with a human approach and build a stronger connection between a brand and their customer. So basically replicating the brick and mortar experience in the most convenient channel out there. And I feel like there's nothing more dynamic than having a live conversation with a real human that's able to solve your problem, solve your needs, give you personalized recommendations, really act like a friend that has your best interests at heart. And this is what we're trying to do at Cartloop.
Wise words, Lisa. You mentioned replicating the in-store experience, and there's an awful lot of retailers think that technically you can't do that online, when in actual fact I believe the experience can be better once you use, as you say, using automations and also using the human factor as well. Lisa, before we go, in terms of your motivation for Cartloop and the solution that you have developed, you're adding the human touch, but how is Cartloop different, I suppose, to some of the legacy SMS providers? I'm thinking, I'm not going to answer the question for you, but I'm thinking that it's that human element. But there's a big difference between Cartloop. So what is it?
The biggest element is the human touch. The other SMS marketing players have great products, but they are a completely different category. They are primarily SMS automation tools. And you can essentially build a chatbot that replies based on scenarios. But if the customers ask something out of the script, it will be lost. So they will not get a reply, and perhaps that conversion will not be made in the end. So Cartloop is built upon relationships that pay for themselves by increasing a customer's willingness to transact with a brand and improving the customer's loyalty after the purchase. That's why we believe that Cartloop is more than just a text marketing app. It's basically a movement that encourages authenticity, personalization, real-time communication, community, and privacy during all these stages of the customer journey, whether that's online or offline. And I feel like the best way I can describe Cartloop and the best differentiator I can provide is the fact that Cartloop is a relationship building tool between brands that help them develop long-term sustainable growth. So we're targeting brands that actually want to grow in the long term, are not just going after short-term results. If you're going after short-term results, okay, just go with some Facebook ads and maybe don't really care about the customer experience.
Well, That's a great explanation. And Lisa, I have to say I've really enjoyed this conversation. SMS continues to grow, although I have seen recently some reports of some brands who possibly haven't used it correctly, actually pulling back from it slightly and kind of reformulating their marketing strategy. But there's no doubt about it, as I mentioned, it's here to stay. Well done. Just wanted to wish you continued success with Cartloop. And what we'll do is we will add all of the links to Cartloop in the show notes. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks for listening. All of our episodes are available on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. A special note of appreciation goes to our sponsors, Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify and BigCommerce store owners. Get your first month free by responding to your welcome email once you sign up for your free trial on Rewind.io. Cinder is worth considering for your e-commerce accounting and reporting needs. Use a coupon code EasyBooks for up to 40% off. Klaviyo, which helps e-commerce brands easily create personalized, multi-channel marketing campaigns using your most powerful asset, your customer data. To get started with a free trial of Klaviyo, visit klaviyo.com/milkbottle. That's KLAVIYO.com/milkbottle. If you're a Shopify user with an exciting story to tell, reach out to the team on podcast@milkbottlelabs.com. Until next time, take care.